Welcome to another episode of Distory. My name is Kirk from Walrus Carp, and welcome to the new locations. We're both in studio in a new location. I'm at my parents', and Kate, the Disney Cicerone, is over in Disneyland. And tonight we're going to talk about, because we could not agree at all about what we wanted to finish out the year with. And so we're going to have three separate stories of Disneyland, Disney World, or parks history that involves whatever we wanted. So I have three, Kate has three, and what?
Because it's our show. We do what we want.
Yeah, but no. I mean, like, because I didn't want to do what you wanted to do, and you didn't want to do what I wanted to do. So, like, literally, this is the most selfish show we've ever put together.
True. We usually compromise and we go back and forth. And
yeah. We pick and choose between each other. This was like non-negotiable. Like, I want to cover my stuff, you cover yours.
It'll be fun. It'll be great.
Yeah,
we don't know
exactly.
what we have. So surprise. It'll be a surprise for all. Do you want to go first with one of yours then?
Sure. Let me do that. I'm going to talk about, for my first thing, something that cost $70 per pound. What may that be? Disneyland's most famous candy canes. The candy canes that you can purchase right now for $22 are quite the talk of the town. In fact, I'm sure you've seen on different social medias how you can gain access, because it requires getting to the park early, getting into a virtual queue, and then you're basically entered into a lottery system of sorts that may or may not pick you and tell you when you could go, hey, now you can go spend $22. Come on down. But the fun thing about the Disneyland candy canes is it's not like this is something that's brand new to Disneyland. In fact, the Candy Palace has been cranking out candy canes all the way since 1968. So this isn't like a new tradition, which I think is really cool. The other thing that I think is very, very fascinating about the candy canes is that they're all hands pulled, so no actual machining. So you can see right here, and I'm going to show you and work you through the process of candy canes. And then I also just went into a deep dive of candy canes, like why do we even have candy canes? And maybe I should even start there, but just so you can get a frame of reference of what these things look like. Starts out as a big block of sugar, and then they get eventually molded down and pulled into the shape and pieces that they are, these really beautiful, ornate, striped, and they're large. They're 5 ounces. So yeah, if you were to get a pound's worth, it would cost you over $70, which is crazy. And people swear that texturally these ones are different, and I think they could have something to that. But it's just interesting to note because the candy canes are they're gorgeous. I mean, this is like the quintessential kind of Instagram flavored thing that, you know, everybody kind of wants to talk about, right? Let's talk about the creation of the candy cane. So we're going to start there. When candy canes first started out, it was back in 1670 when a choir master in the Cologne Cathedral in Germany started handing out sugar sticks to young singers to keep them quiet during the, I'm going to mispronounce this, the living crackry, which is honestly, it's what I'm actually trying to say is like a living nativity scene. So if during like the holidays or Christmas time, you would have a nativity scene that's acted out with live characters and live animals. In fact, SeaWorld still does one of these live nativity scenes, which is kind of cool that still exists in a theme park today. Imagine you're the choir master. You have a bunch of young kids who are singing in the choir who can't sit still, and they're talking and they're ruining. Well, rather than hit them with sticks, which you certainly could do back then in 1670, they would give them completely white sticks of sugar. And they started out just as sugar sticks. They never had peppermint in them. And then eventually, the board of the choir, or not the board of the choir, the board of the church said they can't just have candy. So the reason why candy canes have a shape is they made them to look like a shepherd's crook. So by giving them the hook, it makes them a religious symbol now. And then eventually, it doesn't come about until 150 years later that we start getting some of the colors and striping. And the striping was, again, another Christian symbol, because depending on the number of red stripes that were on the candy cane, 3 would represent the Holy Trinity, 1 would be Jesus' sacrifice or the blood of Jesus. So there is like a Christian undertone to candy canes. They really didn't become popular, though, until the 1900s, when you would see them in greeting cards with Santa Claus who's feeding a reindeer one right now. This is where candy canes start to get really popular, is in the 1960s. And that's when machining comes about. And G.H. Keller creates a patent that was filed in May 13th, 1957 for a mechanized way of forming candy canes. Because the process of forming candy canes up until the 1960s was very laborious. And we'll talk about that process and what Disneyland does, which is the by hand version of making candy canes, which is really impressive. And I think when you look at the price point of $22, you go, oh my God, dude, that's ridiculous. Well, first of all, a normal candy cane's about 1 ounce, and they're all made by machine. So very, very different style, texture, and taste and flavor profile versus the ones that they've been making since 1968 in Disneyland.
I just wanted to mention that they also, because they're gigantic, that also reminds me of when we talked about the churro and how Disneyland made it, instead of the 6-inch churros, they doubled the size so they could charge more. So that seems like that's also a little bit relevant here. They just made them a little bigger so they could charge a little bit more.
Yeah, I mean, you can get like a whole entire 12-pack of candy canes for, $2-3. And so if you make it 5 times the size of a regular candy cane, you can charge $22.
That's the logic, I think.
Plus the fact that it's handmade versus mechanized, and it comes from a place of history. I mean, you can buy them at the Candy Palace, and then Trolley Treats is the place in DCA that sells them. Trolley Treats is tomorrow's spot for candy canes. It's interesting. They go in between each location because there's only so many that they can make in a day. And once you see this process, you'll go, okay, well, this makes a lot of sense as to how challenging this can be.
They've created scarcity, too, with the candy canes by only making a limited amount available. So then they can charge more.
Mm-hmm.
Supply and demand.
So this is mainly sugar and cornstarch in copper kettles. They actually have all of these chocolate kettles, too, in both of the locations for making treats. And this stainless steel table right here is both a cooling and a heating table. And the reason why all of these guys in the wintertime are wearing short sleeves and are probably still sweating is because they keep the rooms at 90 degrees plus so that it keeps the sugar pliable so that they can work with it. Now, they're putting in both peppermint flavoring as well as red and green food dye. Now, you notice that the main bulk, though, is this yellowish color. Well, once they put it on this candy hook, they're going to sit and pull and pull. And this is where it's really, really laborious. There was one cast member who was talking about their first year making candy canes. They lost about 20 pounds. Well, I would imagine being in a sweat box that's 90 degrees plus having to pull this really heavy sugar. And what they're doing is they're aerating and creating a crystallization process. So I think that's what really gives the texture. But then after they've done that, that aeration creates that white color. So that's not an unnatural color. That's from the air being mixed in. And then they form around the block all of those colors, and then they roll them. The main dominant color is that red. And then they literally just pull them out and shape them over there, and boom, bam, you get a $22 candy cane. Isn't that cool?
Yeah. I mean, I've seen like candy pullers and stuff before, like the hook thing.
There's some guy on TikTok who's super popular, and all he does is candy pulling, and it's really fascinating to watch. I just think it's interesting too, just from a perspective of like why the heck we even use candy canes or had candy canes or anything. I just think it's interesting. So yeah.
Yeah, I know. Like, I've always heard the Christmas story of like, it's a J for Jesus, and it's like he's the good shepherd and he has the shepherd's girl. Like I'm always like, that's the story.
Yeah, the J one is definitely an urban legend because I through my research I found that that's like one of the most common things, but it's not true. It was just so that they could claim that it was a part of the nativity scene for these kids back, when they started in the 1700s. So I think and candy canes not until the 19th century were completely white. They didn't add the red striping until later on. So I think that's also kind of interesting too. Like seeing white candy canes will freak you out. It's very strange looking. I tried to find it because supposedly there were some greeting cards that had Santa holding white candy canes. I was unable to find any of them, but I just thought it was really interesting. So
Do you have
there you go.
sad? Was that candy cane?
I'm done.
Okay.
That's all I got on candy canes.
Oh, that's great though. I love that. Well, I'm going to go in a different direction. I'm going to talk about Walt Disney's boots.
And if you guys haven't realized why we argued about what to do this week, no, I'm just kidding. I'm interested. Let's do it.
You're going to like this one, I think.
Yeah.
So this all comes from an interview of Walt Disney by the Saturday Evening Post by writer Pete Martin in 1956. So wait, before I get into the boot story, this was my rabbit hole for the week. I actually started flipping through. They have these digital versions of these old Saturday Evening Posts magazines from 1950s, and so I saw like a Christmas version of it that has these old ads from the 1950s during Christmas time. And I was like, this is the best thing I have ever found. Just to show you some of these ads from this is this baby that says, "Pure pleasure. 7-Up is so pure, so wholesome. Nothing does it like 7-Up." And I love the line at the end. It has like a happy baby holding a cup, pouring 7-Up into it like it's a healthy drink for this
Babies love 7-Up.
infant. And it says, "For a fact, you can even give this sparkling drink to babies, and without any qualms. Lots of mothers do just that. It's an all-family drink."
Well, if you didn't know this, the soft drink used to be called 1-Up, and then they figured they should put an age on it, so now you actually have to be 7 or up to drink the drink. So
Maybe not, because that baby was not 7 or up. This one's are straight hot dogs better than curved ones.
sounds like a personal preference.
I was like, what is this? And it's talking all about the chemical cellulose for sausage making. And I was just like, what? So that's in there. They had an ad on the back that talks about, because I guess everybody was juicing their oranges, so they're trying to make a case for eating your Sun's oranges whole because they're healthier for you with like all the white stuff in them.
It's like eating the pith.
Like, yeah. Because it says these cells and juice sacs that make up the meat of an orange are the main source of many of its health values, such as important bioflavonoids and protopectins.
Let me just say, without a doubt, I never thought that your section of Distory would involve straight or curved hot dogs or juice sacks.
It's a family-friendly show. We have to.
They're giving 7-Up to babies, lady. What are you talking about?
Not my babies. It's fine. I'll just do one more and then I'll move on to my actual story.
They are very funny, though. These are comedy.
This one's a life insurance one, and it says you don't have to die to win. There's a guy.
The whole paragraph says your parents need to die for you to win.
Life insurance is for women. So it talks about it basically has a guy hanging off the back of a railroad. I didn't read all of this. I was just like, this is just hilarious. So there's also a lot of car ads in here, some classic automobiles, which is really cool, and then lots and lots of appliances. So you can get all of your vintage appliances. They look like things that now we would find in retro. So 7 ways to make your Christmas shopping easier. They're all these appliances by General Electric. So
I'm not gonna lie, that looks like what your Amazon wish list is this year.
Dude, I love those. They're like vintage.
I know you do.
I'm
Like
all
you
about
would
it.
still cook with that if you could.
I would. I totally would. I actually do have an old carving knife. It's an electric one where the blades go like this. They like go back and forth. That's from the 1950s that I inherited from my grandparents, and we still use it like when we cut turkey and ham and stuff. It's like this. So that's my vintage one. I always warn people like it might catch the house on fire, but it's really cool. So, all right, let's talk about Walt's boots. Thanks for indulging me there. Walt Disney, he worked for his dad. His dad had a newspaper company distribution at one point in time. His dad, just as a reminder, Elias Disney was kind of somebody who was always chasing after a quick buck. He was like, how can I make money really fast? And unfortunately, because he did that, he alienated a lot of his kids over the years because he took all of the money they earned and took it for himself. And he also moved his family many, many times, chasing the next big thing. So he didn't always get along with his kids. For maybe some good reasons that they stepped away from that relationship. However, Walt Disney did work for him when he was 9. He was doing his paper route. So he's showing Elias Disney, and I'll show you Walt Disney at age 9. This is little Walt, who was going to do paper route with his dad. Well,
man, he really looks like his father.
Yeah. So this is in 1911. Okay, so he was going to get paid $2.50 a week. But Walt Disney never saw any of it, always went to his dad. So he would wake up at 3 a.m. and they would wake him up before school, 3 a.m., to go deliver his newspapers on his paper route at 9 years old. They'd say sometimes he'd fall asleep while he was trying to tie his shoes, like sitting on the edge of his bed because he was so exhausted. Poor kid. Walt himself didn't have any like real toys. He had a couple of them that his brother Roy bought for him, but his parents pretty much just bought him practical things. So they bought him, socks and underwear and coats and sweaters and things that they needed. That's what you got for Christmas back then in his family. So when he'd go on this paper route, which was sometimes very cold because it's Kansas City, it can get cold there. And when he was doing this paper route, sometimes he'd find toys from the other kids that were sitting on the porch, right? And he'd play with those. And he said he even found like half-eaten boxes of candy, and he would eat some of that, which is a little sad. But he always was sure to put the toys back where they were so that he didn't like break them or anything. He was very respectful with the toys, and then he would make sure that he got back in time to finish his paper route. So because he didn't get any toys, Roy he was the one that set some extra money aside for him and his younger sister Ruth to get toys for them for Christmas. There's some really sad parts of this. Like on cold mornings, he sometimes had to crawl down the stairs of the apartment that he had to deliver in because the stairs were frozen solid and it was really dangerous. And he told his daughters later that sometimes he would take a misstep and fall down the steps and then just cry at the bottom because he was all alone and so cold. Like this is Walt Disney, the part of Walt Disney like you don't hear about very often, right? This is little 9-year-old Walt Disney. So, and let's fast forward a little bit to Christmas 1914. Walt Disney is now 13, and he, like most 13-year-olds, I think of my son. My son is 13. They start to get like peer pressure. Everybody's wearing this thing and it's fashionable, and so you want it too, right? Like, because then you can be with the cool kids or whatever. I think every generation has that. It's just like a thing about that age. So he wanted a pair of boots, a very fashionable pair of boots that had metal toes and the decorated leather straps across the laces. But money was so tight, and his dad said, like, no way, like, I'm not getting you these boots. Forget it. You don't need them. So Walt Disney I love this part. He tried to convince his dad that they would make him like faster and get more traction so he could deliver papers faster. Doesn't that sound like something a 13-year-old boy would like try to negotiate?
Sounds about.
But Elias Disney did not buy that, so he didn't do it. Didn't get him that.
Literally, he didn't buy it.
He didn't buy it, no. And so Walt hoped to get them for his birthday, which was December 5th, but he did end up finding them on Christmas morning. They were under the tree. It was his mom, Flora, who had put aside a few pennies each week from the housekeeping budget without Elias knowing. And also Roy had gotten some extra work and contributed to it. So it was his dad and his brother that paid for the boots, not his dad. And his boots ended up under the Christmas tree. So he got these Christmas pair of boots. He put them on and he was so excited and he ran downtown and he then, you did the cool kid thing where you lean against the drugstore and you wait for your friends to go by and see if they see you wearing your cool new kicks, right? So it was at the intersection of 31st and Indiana. That's where he hung out. And so this was kind of a warmer day in Kansas City and the ice that was around in the streets was starting to melt. He decided to walk home and he was kicking chunks of melting ice down the street for fun and watching them skid across the street, like, as you do. But he kicked one large chunk of ice and his foot got stuck. But it turns out that a horseshoe nail was frozen into the ice and went through his boot and into his foot. Are you feeling Christmassy yet, Kirk?
Yeah, I can see how you and I are different when it comes to Christmas stories. Are you going to play that Christmas shoes about the boy who's buying shoes for his dying mom after this? No. Sorry, I just thought we needed something uplifting after this story.
After Halloween with what was it, Halloween? No, Thanksgiving we did I did pigeons and fish and stuff. So are you surprised, really? Well,
not really.
Okay, so it gets better, I promise. So, well, it gets worse first. So he's stuck now. He's yelling, "Help, I'm stuck," to passing carriages. This 1911. No one believed him or stopped for help for at least 20 minutes is what Walt said. No, Walt was known to exaggerate his story, so who knows how long it actually was. Finally, somebody did stop and actually carried him to the doctor's, which was down the street. The doctor had to cut off the boot from his foot and pull out the nail with pliers without any medication. He didn't have any pain meds at this point. And then he got a tetanus shot too. Gotta be safe after you get a horseshoe nail through your foot. And then he was sent home. Of course, his parents were really disappointed that his new boots were ruined. And he was laid up for 2 weeks at home and stayed home from school. Now, this is where the story takes a positive turn. So he was really bored, so he started reading and drawing cartoons on a sketch pad that his aunt had given him. When his mom went to school to collect his makeup work, she brought the drawings in and reported back on the positive comments he received on his drawings. So these 2 weeks that he's sitting around bored and doing all of this, he's contemplating his life, right? And this is the time he decided he wanted to become a professional cartoonist, was when he was laid up and making drawings because of his Christmas boots and the nail that went through his foot. So that is my Christmas story. This was Walt's origin story of how he decided he wanted to be a cartoonist and go into animation.
That's a really good story. It starts out, you know what though? It's got a heck of a hook. Do you know what I mean? That's good. I like that.
Yeah.
That's good. Yeah. That's really interesting. Who would have known?
Yeah. I'll mention that his father then also allowed him to take some art classes on Saturday mornings at the Kansas City Art Institute. And then when they moved to Chicago, he took a few more classes at the Chicago Academy of Fine Art. So that was the only formal art training he ever actually had in his whole career, were those classes. So
interesting.
Yep. And that's it. That's all I got for that. But...
No, that one's cool. I like that. I remember his father at one point was heavily into the temperance movement and ended up investing heavily into a soft drink company that went belly up. And that was they lost their entire family fortune on that one.
His dad did a lot of crazy things. If you read throughout his history, it was that's why they moved so much. And I think it was really hard for Walt. From what I've read, it seemed really hard for Walt to move away from Marceline, because that was kind of his boyhood home kind of thing. And I think that's why he made him so nostalgic and want to kind of recreate it here in Disneyland. So, yeah. Such a critical portion of when you think about all of this, because now he's at this point now he's 9, he's in Kansas City, and he's getting up at 3 a.m. to deliver papers. That's probably not a memory he wants to relive So
Well, I mean, and I do think that there's also a tie-in to current day. Lots of adults who enjoy going to the parks have either fond memories or had a lot of their childhood time taken from them. So this is like their opportunity to relive that. So the fact that he rebuilt into his theme park something that was so loving and nostalgic for him makes Main Street USA that much more, I don't know, sentimental.
yeah. No, I think that's really interesting to think of it that way. It was so many people in his generation, for just thinking about Walt's generation, that they really didn't get to have much of a childhood. They didn't have toys necessarily. They worked, and then you think of the depression that hit, in the 20s and early 30s, and nobody had anything at that point. So this one really was, yeah, I love the idea of like this is their chance to kind of get a little bit of that childhood they never really got to have. I
Mhm.
love that.
Yeah, I agree. That's cool.
All right, your turn. You're up. What do
All
you got?
right. We're going to the ripe old age of 1983.
Oh, oh, that's a good year.
It's a great year. Great year.
Oh, it's good.
84 is a little better, but
Ah,
understandable.
we said the same thing.
um, 1983, something really special happens in Walt Disney World's history. It is the very first Mickey's Very Merry Christmas Party. I had no idea that it was that old. I honestly thought it started in like the late 90s. This is like kind of like reliving through old primary source artifacts, if you will. So the first one that I found is this 1995 ticket stub. And in fact, they sell a ton of these on eBay. And this is for a kid. So this was for December 14th, 1985, 8 p.m. to 1 a.m., which, first of all, that's pretty sweet that the Christmas party used to go to 1 a.m. That's awesome. But the price, can we talk about the price? The base price was $8.52. The sales tax was 43 cents. The transportation charge was $2, making your total cost $10.95 back in 1985.
Bring it back.
I was gonna say, but you know what's crazy? You think that's bad? Well, if we go from 19, like we could talk about price increases. Price increases are the norm. They are the norm at Disney. This is not weird. But so going from 1985, because I was just like, all right, well, I wonder what it would be like 1 year later. First of all, what is going on with this party ticket? Mickey has that like crazy look in his eyes.
What is the car about?
It's like a Buick, and I tried to find why on earth like a Buick LeSabre or a Chrysler's just to the left randomly. I'm assuming that has to be a sponsorship thing.
Yeah,
It's 1,000% a sponsor, but they're on the ticket, which is so funny.
that is weird.
Isn't it weird? It makes no sense except for, hey, we need to pay for this somehow, so like throw the car on there, you know? So look at our price increase. We had over a 50% price increase as the base price went to $13.28, 67 cents to tax, $2 for transportation, bringing it to $15.95. So to me, that's wild to see in just a quick 1 year, a 50% price increase, which may not seem like a lot because it's $10 to $15. But to me, that's tremendous. Could you imagine if we saw a 50% on a $168 ticket? People would lose it. They wouldn't go. It'd be like the most undersold thing ever.
Right.
Yeah.
Well,
So what?
because it's interesting because around this time in Disneyland, they were really hurting to try to get people to the parks. Like I think this was around that era where they started selling those discounted like Burger King tickets. Like, get like a $2 ticket with the price of a burger. It was crazy, a crazy time when they were having a hard time getting people to the parks. So it's interesting.
Yeah, I think this was another way to differentiate themselves and have something that was on top of what guests were already paying for their base ticket cost. So, somebody would be coming in for the day. They're like, hey, we could get another $10 or $15 out of somebody who's already paying $30 or $40 for a day, depending on park hopping or not. So I thought that was kind of an interesting monetary decision back in the the mid to late 80s that they started adding these things in there.
Jackie says it's like $45 in today's money after inflation. That sounds
Which
right.
is awesome. Like, oh my gosh, I would love 45. I saw something the other day that 30,000 in 1970 is roughly the equivalent of like $162,000 a year, and I got sick to my stomach and I stopped looking at that video. It's like, oh God, we're all losing.
Yeah.
Okay.
About that.
Next thing I found, and I love this one. This is a pamphlet. So we're actually a couple of years later. This is 1993, but this is one of the only primary sources, like pamphlets that show all the things that are included in the Mickey's Very Merry Christmas Party. You do have cookies. You do have Mickey and little kid. You do have crazed little Minnie and Mickey looking wild. And of course, we do have the iconic, you have your Santa, but then the toy soldiers, which are super iconic and have been forever, and the reindeer, which we did last year when we did holiday parades, which I thought was a cool section. But this says, oh, what fun it is to sing the praises of Mickey's Very Merry Christmas Party. In all the world, there's nothing so merry, nothing so magical as Mickey's Very Merry Christmas Party. It's like, this is like a drinking game. You have to like, every time they say very merry in this pamphlet, you have to drink. It's almost as fun as Christmas Day. And Mickey has added extra very merry night. I'm telling you, everything is very merry. But they had a parade. So Mickey's Very Merry Christmas Parade. The Fantasies in the Sky super exclusive fireworks spectacular. Holiday shows, bands, choirs, carolers. And awe-inspiring Magic Kingdom decorations.
Oh.
They're not very awe-inspiring, just to let you know.
This is interesting copy, have to say.
Yeah. The other thing that I thought was cool here is this is the first time that they're mentioning free hot chocolate or free chocolate chip cookies, free hot chocolate, free family photo, free souvenir collector's button, free showing of Mickey's Christmas Carol. I don't know why the movie. Like,
because that was pretty new then.
I guess it was newer, and they were showing it in one of the theaters, and then Miss Minnie's Country Christmas.
Ooh, that's fun.
Right? Yeah, so I think all of this stuff, it's really kind of cool. Again, pricing from we went up to $22.95, which is not that much in comparison to the 86. I think for just under 10 years, that's pretty good.
It's only 4 dates.
Yeah. Isn't that weird?
4th, 10th, and 11th. That's it.
Yeah, but Mickey has added an extra very merry night.
Mickey did it.
Mickey. All right. Next things. This brought me down a cookie rabbit trail because I just was curious. Like, they've been doing cookies for a while. You can't find a ton of pictures of cookies, but in years past, they used to have, and there's several different types of these molded sugar cookies. So they would have like a side profile Mickey. There was one that was a side profile of Santa, but they've always had a variety of cookies. And I think that's interesting that, so chocolate chips was the start. And then into the 2000s, they started adding more and different and unique. And this has become like a quintessential part of the ticket is getting cookies. To me, that was a huge part. But that was from like inception. They've been having the free cookies as a part of their option.
Can I say something real quick?
Yeah, please.
I'm pretty sure that the name Very Merry that came from that parade that was in Disneyland in 1977. And
it's totally plausible because I did find things about Disneyland and Very Merry Christmas Parade. And in fact, we're going to talk about the parade in a second. Not the Disneyland one, but the televised one to get people excited for this new Christmas party that they were adding, which the production was pretty cool. I mean, and they had, just wait until you see who the hosts are. That's a step back in time. So some of the cookies that they've had in the past, sugar snickerdoodle have always been staples in chocolate chip, but they've had peppermint ones. One was called a peppermint crunch, and they've had molasses and then ginger molasses as well. And they've switched it around with drinks. So we know that they have hot cocoa, apple cider, eggnog now, but they used to also have Fanta.
What?
So clearly a sponsor of
They have 7 Up too?
of
Maybe.
Mary Mary was a Coca-Cola Fanta product. So yeah.
And 7 Up for all the infants.
Well, you know, kids need to hydrate too.
They're essential nutrients.
Yeah, exactly.
Fanta, your Christmas drink.
Yeah. It's the festival of Fantasy Parade.
Fanta Seaberry.
Okay, so hang on. Let me. Don't listen to me. This is dumb. Hang on. I gotta make this smaller because otherwise the resolution on this video is so horrendous because it's the 80s. But I found, this is Bruce Jenner on the left in the green, and that's Joan London. But also Regis Philbin was a part of this, much younger. When you see Regis, you're gonna go like, "Oh my god, dude, he had a lot of hair back then." So that's Regis going around talking to everybody. He looks like, oh my god, like Wayne Newton in this era. It's it's crazy. Characters. So they had a lot of different characters come out, but they had a band that initially came out. And they had singing and dancing on the stage. So this was the one that they obviously televised. But at nighttime, this was the parade. This stage production and this whole parade was almost an hour long. It was really impressive. And they had some really rare characters in here too. Hang on. I got to find, there's a ton, but the one I want to find is right at, look at Dumbo in the fire engine house. Isn't that cool?
We've seen that come back, that particular float come back in a couple parades. It became what, like a chicken house for something?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, it is a chicken house right now.
Yeah.
So, all right, this is the most horrifying character. Jungle Book fans, I don't even know how this was allowable. I don't know whose idea this was.
Oh no.
Who put Mowgli in that outfit?
He's like wearing a red diaper.
It's like a full suit, so he's wearing like a full skin covering suit, but a diaper. It's the weirdest. I don't know why they would ever make him like a face character, you know.
Oh no.
They did also have
something. I can't unsee that.
Yeah, they did have Geppetto with Pinocchio as a like an actual puppet, which I thought was cool. Cute. And then you see the Blue Fairy, and right after that, you see Pinocchio with Falfel and Gideon. So like he actually becomes alive. So I like how they show the storyline. Oh my god,
like a mullet. I love that.
I don't.
You're going back in time. I love it.
I can't even hold the phone straight. And then I thought it was cool seeing Stromboli as well.
Yeah, that is. Stromboli was made by
They did have Mary Poppins and the Penguins. I'll show you this because I know you'd be into it. But it had Bert, Mary Poppins, and tons of penguins. There was 4 penguins that did a dance. But then for, obviously me, we have the Queen of Hearts who is flailing a flamingo croquet mallet at all the guests. And then they had some dancing playing cards. And then it moves into Golden Afternoon with lots of the flowers, and Alice is on a giant mushroom, and there is a tea kettle that spins around, and the White Rabbit as well, who, if you look at it character-wise, the White Rabbit has not changed. Gideon has not changed. Foulfellow has not changed. Like, they are the same characters that they were back in the 80s, which I think is very cool. So
those flowers kick. Woo!
Yeah, oh man, it was 71 that day, so they were doing all right.
I found out something kind of interesting that I think might be a connection to Alice, if you don't mind a very quick aside.
Yeah.
Is that Walt Disney and Lillian like to play croquet together. But
Oh.
he got really mad because Lillian like barely tried and she always beat him every single time, no matter how hard he tried. So I wonder if their kind of interplay about croquet is some of what made it into Alice in Wonderland because they it was a popular sport that they played together.
You were talking about that on your live stream the other day. Yeah, that was really cool because I just keep thinking like it would be awesome to make a cartoon about my wife and what she does and gets me mad about, and have her like, is Lillian the Red Queen, you know?
Oh my gosh, that would be.
Or is Walt the Red Queen when he doesn't win croquet?
He did have a temper.
Rule 42.
Rule 42, the queen always wins. That puts it in all new context, doesn't it?
Mm-hmm.
Mm-hmm.
That's what I'm saying.
His queen always won. Oh, that's so interesting. Now I'm going to dig down and see if I can find that that's actually a connection. It's just speculation at this point.
Well, we all take inspiration from real life, so you know.
Yeah. A lot of Walt's stories that from his real life made it into those classic movies, so it wouldn't surprise me if that was true. Well, my second one is just a really short one because I actually don't have as much information as I would like about it, and I really don't know if there is that much that's written in Disney history about this. So if anybody else knows anything about this, let me know. But this is something that I have mentioned before. And there's something that used to be on top of the Matterhorn in 1961. The Matterhorn was crowned with a giant Christmas star. You can see it here.
Oh, that's so cool.
That was 24 feet wide, and then it was put in place by a crane. And it did originally rotate around. It would spin slowly. But then it stopped doing that at some point, but they still put it up there. So I have a picture of Santa Claus on top of the Matterhorn and then lifting it in place with a giant crane.
That's really cool.
Yeah, like who's taken that picture? I don't even know.
That is fantastic.
Yeah. I have a note from one of the Matterhorn mountain climbers, Rich Chambers. They asked him about it. One of the other Disney historians, I think this was Dave Lan Webb. That's where I got this one from. He said, I don't recall anything in particular about the Christmas star other than it took up a lot of space on our platform at the top of the mountain. He's like, it was in my way. Get that star out of the way.
That's really cool, though.
Yeah.
I mean, that is visually incredible.
Yeah, here's a kind of a close-up of it. So it's not only has like the points kind of on 4, 5, 6 sides. I don't know. I can't count those sides. But it also has these like little points sticking out. So it almost looks like a snowflake-esque when you get up close to it. Now, it started in 1961, and a lot of people complained because they said it looked hideous from the freeway. It was distracting. It didn't make any sense for this mountain because it ruined the scale of the mountain. If you look at it, like that forced perspective is no longer a thing on the Matterhorn. It's just a giant star just like perched on top.
Yeah, maybe it was a little big.
Yeah, but Walt Disney loved it. And so it was there because Walt loved it. Now, I was trying to find when it disappeared, and every single source that I found said it disappeared at a different time. So one said 1972, another one said 68, another one said 78. And when I was live streaming today, somebody said they remembered it in 1975. So I think the Disney website for like D23 says it disappeared in 78. And now I have one eyewitness that says they remembered it in 75. So it's interesting because people say it stopped going up because of the energy crisis, but that was in the beginning of the 70s. So if it was still there in 78, it wasn't the energy crisis. It probably was like a budget, or people were just like, I don't want to put that up anymore. So
Yeah, and Walt had passed, so tradition didn't matter as much.
yeah, I would be surprised if it stopped in 68 because that's only 2 years after Walt passed. And I think that that's pretty soon considering it was something he really loved.
Yeah.
And how broken up everybody was about losing him and wanting to respect his memory and his place. So it seems more likely that it might be 78 because by that point, it's been over a decade since Walt has passed and they have a change in leadership and things. And people are like, why are we putting this giant star on the top of this thing? Like, who's doing that? Why are we doing this? So that's my theory. So I don't have exact information about like its tonnage, when it stopped rotating. Like, nobody seems to know. It seems to be kind of just lost history at this point. So I'll keep digging every year and see if I can find more stuff about it. But at least we have photos. So something.
Yeah, that's cool. It's visually impressive and interesting, and I'm sure somebody who worked at Disneyland would want to talk about their memories of it, you know?
Yeah, there's got to be some maintenance person whose job was to like install it every year and hated it or something, that wants to spill the beans.
Yeah, somebody's sitting in a retirement center going like, that star is the death of me.
It was a cool looking star, though. It was very retro look to us now, but you think it went up in 1961. It makes sense. It was probably very modern at the time.
Yeah. I love that. They should put it back up. Let's campaign to put it back up.
Well, that's all I got for the Matterhorn Mountain Star. What's up next? What do you got?
This is my short one, and it's a visual one. And all it is pictures of characters in their Halloween or their Christmas clothes.
Well, this will be great for the podcast when people are listening to it.
I will describe it. All right.
I've got a couple of random pictures too. Maybe this is our picture section.
No, this is definitely a picture section. So the first one, this is over at the Contemporary, and this is like behind like a gingerbread house that they built. And it's Chip and Dale dressed up as the toy soldiers with them, and they did this as a meet and greet, so you actually go there and take pictures. So there was lots of pictures with families with Chip and Dale at a built gingerbread. So like, I love that there was a tradition of building gingerbread like buildings and structures at the Contemporary even longer than I realized when we did the gingerbread episode.
Yeah, that's interesting.
Yeah, that was like kind of a cool tie-in. So we're just gonna keep on going through. So this is from 83, and it is because of that Mickey Christmas Carol cartoon coming out. This has you have nephew Fred Donald, who has like the old school Oliver and Company hat and a scarf and a nice jacket on, like a pea coat. Then you have Bob Cratchit Mickey, Mrs. Cratchit Minnie, and then Ebenezer Scrooge as Donald with like a top hat, glasses.
What's going on at Donald's mouth?
What's going on in general? Like Minnie's lipstick game, she almost looks like a ghost of Christmas past.
He would not be able to afford that lipstick. Just saying.
Yeah.
This is after he got his raise.
Yeah. It's a good one.
She went to Sephora and got some lipstick.
Yeah. Now there's lots of different iterations of like Goofy as Santa, Mickey as Santa. I just like this one, not for anybody except for maybe like I think the plaid design that Minnie's wearing here kind of mirrors a lot of the Main Street team members' skirts. But I really like this one because I don't know what's going on with Donald, but he has like a jester's like the blue and green outfit. There has to be some sort of symbology of wearing those kind of colors for the holidays, because otherwise it's just completely out of place where everybody else is in red and green.
What?
And he's just in this
elf, maybe?
I don't know. But
that's the only thing I can think of that would make sense with that. Is this like an elf?
This was 1984, and this was in Disneyland.
It's our year.
Again, this is Mickey and Minnie in matching snowflake ugly sweaters, and Minnie also has a red skirt with snowflakes as well, and she's wearing a beret. Oh, that's so good. It's so fun. What Kate is showing is like the vintage. What was the year of these Mickey and Minnie?
I think this has to be it's probably between 1956 and 1961, because
are these the commissioned ice ones or before that?
This is after the commissioned ice, but before they made those big giant rubber head ones in the early 1960s. So this is sometime in the late 50s for sure.
I do love those rubber head ones because Mickey always looks like, am I supposed to be here? Like,
their eyes are so wide.
Perpetually lost. Yeah.
Yeah. So
Yeah.
didn't mean to steal your thunder. Just
No, there's no thunder here. This is just we're just looking at cutesy pictures. Uh, you see this happen a couple of times with Winnie the Pooh and gang. They're wearing Santa hats and matching like Argyle red and white patterned scarves. Then you get a safari style Mickey over in Animal Kingdom. So this was right outside the Tree of Life garden, which also what I thought was cool is that this proves that there were parades slash cavalcades over in Animal Kingdom, which I had never experienced before. I was actually talking about that on a live stream, and people were like, yeah, they used to do parades in Animal Kingdom. And when I saw this one, I was like, oh, that's so cool. I wish they would do a Christmas parade or cavalcade,
nighttime
which
show. It's
yeah,
like every
he's on like a safari vehicle that has garland wrapped around it with wreaths, and I just think it. And he's got a safari hat. He looks like he could be a jungle skipper right now because it's like a Christmas safari hat. Oh my good lord, what is that, dude? It's like I have like cheerful, happy, and you have like Rosemary's Baby. What is that?
1961. This is from the Babes in Toyland parade.
More like he is horrifying.
So they took all these props from Babes in Toyland. Remember we did that show about the parades, and so they took all the props from the movie, and they like some of them they just repurposed and turned into parade floats because they were trying to promote Babes in Toyland, which is like this giant doll who's like winking at you, and she's scary looking. Not gonna lie.
It's like a giant, horrifying, blinking porcelain head with curly hair. I don't like it.
Tony Lee's saying the Adventure Begins truck is what you have. That's Mickey and Minnie MJJ outfits.
Oh, that's cool.
Yeah.
It looks like the flag on the back says something like Bon Voyage. Not sure if that's true or not. And then on the back has got like a hidden Mickey satellite on their antenna.
You have another one? Because I got another one.
Oh, I have. We're just starting, dude. Do you see all these tabs? I've got tons. Okay. So this is like Russian Donald with like he's got like a minx hat on, and fur, and Daisy's with him as well. And then this is the first time I'm seeing Duffy being introduced, and you see Mickey, Minnie, and so this is from Tokyo Disneyland with Duffy sitting down. Now this Duffy I think was animated. Like there was a person in this one who was just sitting, but I do have Duffy pictures later on. Dude, what is this? I literally I look up and is this from Babes in Toyland too? What is that?
Yes, it was the scary trees from Babes in Toyland.
And that thing walked around. Christmas. Scary and merry.
He's one of the scary trees from Babes in Toyland. And they've turned him into a parade float-esque character.
Oh my god.
Which version of it?
That is crazy.
Yep, welcome to 1961 Christmas in Disneyland, my friends.
That is insane. Yeah. Woo. Well, you know what? People like scary things.
I don't know if I have anything that can top that tree.
Yeah, probably not. That's pretty good though. Here's Donald with the lumberjack. He's got the old trapper hat on, which I love. Minnie's got a nice red adorned with silver dress, and then they do have the gingerbread men in the back, which have went through like so many different iterations. All right, I have so many characters. I'm just gonna kind of fly through this stuff and just look at ones that are unique. So there's actually Duffy, so in a Santa outfit, which we now have at Jollywood.
I have the world's largest drum. Goes along with Walt's boots. Look at I Love Donald on the front of this. Hold on. We got to zoom in. Look at him go.
The ankle crossing for me.
With like shoes that are meant to look like duck feet.
Yes. It looks like just like it looks like cloth noses.
Oh my gosh.
You can see this was from It was before the 80s. I think it was late 70s. You have an elevated Santa Claus, but then I thought the interesting part of this were the plushies of Minnie and Mickey, which kind of mirror those 60s/70s Mickey and Minnie that you had shown earlier. I'd never seen them in plush form. I was like, oh God, they're really scary. Now, have you seen, this is Disneyland Paris, and Chip and Dale are like cake decorators or gingerbread house decorators. What's I guess it's Dale's girlfriend is in this one.
Yeah, she has a name. What's her name? I know.
Yeah, I didn't find it. I know it's it. Somebody will know. And then Stitch Santa. I'm gonna roll through these because I literally have like 20 more. Belle in and this is in Disneyland Paris too. This is Belle in a Santa outfit.
Chip and Dale too. Oh, look, we've got pigs. I've got pigs.
Yeah, I've got the 3 little pigs. And then there's also Mr. Potato Head and Miss Potato Head. Mr. Potato Head's wearing a Santa hat.
Oh, Clarice. They said that Clarice.
Clarice. Okay. And Pluto as a reindeer. Max, Chip and Dale, Mickey Santa, Country Bears. I'm literally just going to rack through these. Thumper. And then female Thumper.
Thumper.
Right? Because isn't that Thumper? I don't know. Like, again, Disneyland Paris has like a bunch of like rare ones. Like, look at Marie. Marie's got like a little tiny holiday bow.
Like failing at our character names this evening. So.
Yeah, and that's okay. I literally was just picking really cute pictures more than anything else. A drum major, Grand Marshal. There we go. And then, of course, Jack and Sally, Winnie the Pooh. This is more contemporary. They just had this in Very Merry. I just love the reindeer so much. Goofy, Olaf.
Flower is not her name. That's the name of the skunk. Yeah, I'm working on the nightmare fuel over here.
Yeah,
that's what I'm doing.
All right, that's all I got. There was a lot of pictures. It's insane. Mickey and Minnie probably have had 50 different iterations of costumes over the. Her name is Miss Bunny. Okay, very original. Thumper and Miss Bunny.
I have before I go on to my last story. I do have just a couple of pictures I found that are vintage Disney Christmas pictures, since we're in the picture portion. From that same parade, we had the Happy Holidays boxes that are walking boxes for Happy Holidays.
Reminds me of the people that just did trash can costumes for Oogie Boogie. They were just like walking trash cans.
Yeah, that was really cool. They were really creative for that.
Yeah, I thought they were good.
Back in 1955, 1956, they had something called the Christmas Bowl. So it's like the holiday bowl, but this is like the very early candlelight procession, before it was candlelight, before it was procession. So they had Charles Dickens singers, and they had choirs and whatnot, and people would go and listen to them sing in Disneyland. I also really loved this one. They made the House of the Future into a giant present. They like put a red stripe around the sides, and they put a big bow on top.
That's fun.
That is like the best thing ever. So something that people probably don't know is where the fountains are outside of Sleeping Beauty Castle now. There used to be these giant flocked trees they would put in the middle of the moat. So the Christmas trees in the middle of the moat, which doesn't make a lot of sense, but it was there.
What does like a flock tree mean? Like, has like fake snow on it?
Yeah, fake snow. Flocked means fake snow, but they weren't always flocked. They also had these like, I don't know, rust colored trees. They're like orange with silver ornaments. Sounds really interesting.
I'm shocked they didn't have more aluminum trees, because that was a big popular thing, especially in the 60s and 70s.
I also had one that was just kind of interesting. The very first Christmas at Disneyland, the tree wasn't located where it is now, which is like it is in Disney World in Town Square. It was actually located in the hub for the first Christmas. And I don't have a great photo of it, but I do have a picture of the first Christmas tree ever in Disneyland, where the partner statue usually sits. So a little picture, vintage picture of Disneyland there. Yeah.
Where's the Christmas tree now in Disneyland?
Same place it's in Disney World. It's just, I was going to say it looks better. I was going to say, Disney World has this really weird thing where it has like a giant box that the tree like sits on. And so like the tree's not close to you because there's like toys or something around it at the bottom. Disneyland, the tree is like, it's just like a tree. And you can like go up and you can touch the tree and the ornaments if you want to do. It's like, it's just there. It's like not sitting on a big box. So the box always throws me off when I go to Disney World. I'm like, why is this thing on a giant box? So to keep it away from people is probably the answer. But anyway, just saying.
We have the really creepy doll at the base of our Christmas tree.
You have a creepy doll?
We have a really creepy doll. We actually have a lot of creepy dolls in Magic Kingdom.
I do think that they used to have real trees versus fake ones. This is a good vintage shot of some Christmas looks from, this is probably late 50s, early 60s. And that is near that tree. So enough vintage photos. I'm on to my last story. If you're all done, I'm guessing you're done.
I'm done.
Okay. So this is the Hatbox surprise. So I have made some content about this before, and I've talked with you and Lem both about this before, but I actually found the real story of Walt Disney telling this story. So I thought I would kind of read it a little bit because I think his words are actually pretty great rather than me just kind of fumbling through it. So this is Walt's words. He says, "When we got our first home, I wanted a dog, and my wife would have nothing to do with dogs. For some reason, she did not like dogs. She said, 'Oh, they get hair on everything. They're dirty and there's dog odors.' I got a book on dogs, and the Chow did not shed hair or have fleas and had very little odor. She said, if I had to have a dog, that's the kind of dog I would want. That's what I wanted. So the next day I went out and bought a Chow and kept it under wraps until Christmas. I don't know where he stashed this dog, like under the bed, in his office. I don't know. I bought it when it was about 6 to 8 weeks old, and it was about a month before Christmas. We had our Christmas tree, and her sister Hazel would come over with her little niece Marjorie Sewell, who was about 11 then, and the niece was always the one who took the presents from under the tree and took them around and gave them to everybody. We had a kind of little family Christmas. I picked up my Chow from the dog kennel in the afternoon. Oh, that's where he stashed it, was at the kennel. I forgot about that. I took it over and kept it at my brother Roy's, who had a house next door. I got a big hat box and I got a big ribbon on it. I'm going to pause his story right here to give you a little context, which I think I've mentioned this before, but Walt Disney loved his hats. He was a big hat guy. He loved these like funky little hats that his wife hated. She thought they were dumb. She hated the way he wore it at like a little jaunty angle. She thought she made fun of him for it. She's like, "What are you doing? Like you're a nerd. Like stop." So she hated his hats. He had one hat that she really didn't like. She just didn't like the looks of it, I guess. And so at one point they went to Mexico and they saw a bullfight. And when it came time at the end, when they like win and you're supposed to like chuck your hat into the ring, she grabbed his favorite hat and went to like go throw it into the ring, and he snatched it back just in time. So when it came around time for her birthday around in February, he had the hat bronzed, made into a vase, and then put violets in it for her birthday and handed it to her as a birthday present to show his love and affection. You can have the hat that you hated. Now it's bronze. So I guess he couldn't wear it anymore. So it's something.
He's probably happy about that.
But that gives you a little bit of insight into their relationship. And I've read some accounts from Diane Disney Miller, who's also talked about how much Lillian hated these hats, and how when she got this box from Walt Disney that was a hat box, how she was really disappointed and a little bit angry that he would like get her a hat because he doesn't have good taste in hats. So that's not a great Christmas present. So that's part of the joke here, is that he was giving it in a hat box, knowing how much she hated his taste in hats. Okay. So context, very important. So back to Walt. He said, when the time came, I went over, I put the little puppy in the hat box, tied it up with a ribbon, and when they were all busy, I put it over by the tree. And my niece was tipped off, so my wife didn't see me bring it in. So then my niece went over and got this, and she said, "Oh, what is this for?" And I said, "It says to Lily from Santa Claus." So my niece brought this big hat box over and put it in front of my wife in her lap, and my wife said, "Oh, Walt, you didn't." Now, she didn't know I'd bought a dog. She thought I bought her a hat. And that's one thing she doesn't want anybody to do. She wants to buy her own hats. She was upset because I had bought her a hat. So when she started to open it, it moved and she let out a scream. When she opened it, it was this little chow stuck its head out of there. And from that time on, it was her baby and it had to sleep in our bedroom. So that's Walt's account of all of this. Diane Disney Millie says it was her pet until it died of old age, but mother couldn't abide other breeds. Santa Claus brought me an extremely untidy cocker puppy one Christmas, but he disappeared the next day. Mr. Santa hadn't consulted Mrs. Santa in advance, and she put her foot down. So it was only this chow puppy, and I do have a picture of the dog with Lillian here. She loved this dog. Marjorie, in an interview, remember she was at Nice there, says she was scared carrying the box to her aunt because she could see that Lillian was getting angrier and angrier with each step she took towards her. This is Christmas morning, okay? So Lillian hated Walt's taste in hats and admonished him about it for his entire life. So later, this scene was used for an inspiration in Lady and the Tramp. So if you're familiar with that hat box scene. And I think they also put this in when Walt Disney Family, they made a documentary about Christmas at Walt's, and they put some of this in there as well. They don't talk about the hatred of hats quite so much, but but it is in there. And I will mention that Lady and the Tramp was the first original story that Disney Studios ever produced, instead of just making other. I won't get into all the history of Lady and the Tramp because we'd be here all night, but I will say that this was an original story. So it's fun that this little interchange between Walt and his wife made it into the story in the first one that they ever produced. It's also the only Disney film to ever begin and end with Christmas. So very appropriate for our Christmas episode.
Oh, that's cool.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know that.
And there used to be a sign for the Chapeau hat shop in Town Square in the Magic Kingdom that looked like the one that was from Lady and the Tramp, and he used to hang outside the hat shop. But now they've taken it down because that area has been annexed for the confectionery, and now it's just like a giant M&M like scoop pouring M&M stuff. So it's gone now. But that is a little hat box surprise. That's what I'm calling that one.
I love that.
I think it's a fun story. I do have a picture.
I remember you taught me with Lady and the Tramp too that Walt's the one that named the dog Tramp.
Yeah.
They had a bunch of names and he was just like, call him Tramp.
Yeah. That happened a lot with a lot of characters. Walt was like, this is what their name should be. Like Dopey. I don't know if you saw that. I made something recently about Dopey, and Walt really wanted to name him Dopey, and everybody's like, that sounds like a drug addict. Like, what are you doing? Like, everybody's gonna think like it's not appropriate for a family thing. And so Walt said, no, I found it in Shakespeare, so it's cool, right? Like, not those words, I'm paraphrasing, but so they're like, oh, I guess if it's in Shakespeare, that it's like high class in literature, right? So we can't argue with that. But it turns out it never actually showed up in Shakespeare. So I'm pretty sure Walt
just lied.
Totally lied and made it up to get his way.
That's funny.
Yeah. So he did name some characters over time. Yeah, I highly recommend watching Christmas with Walt Disney. It's streaming on Disney Plus right now, and it's a great one. If you love Disney history, it will feel like a warm Disney history Christmas hug. Well, is there anything else we want to address, talk about, discuss?
I guess this will be our last episode for this season, and then we'll restart back up the first week of January.
Yeah, season 3 of Distory.
Oh my god, dude. It's ridiculous. How many episodes is this?
I want to say 82.
That's normal.
Yeah, no, it's been quite a while. And I don't know if we have decided exactly what we're starting with in the new year, but I know that Big Thunder Mountain has been on the table for a while. So
yeah, that's definitely going to be our like 10 plus episode, just like we did Jungle Cruise, just like we did Haunted Mansion. Big Thunder needs its justice.
Yeah. And eventually we have to cycle back to Pirates too, because Pirates needs
maybe season 5.
5. Oh my goodness. Well, alrighty, shall we wrap it up then?
Like a good present, let's wrap this episode up. That's the last I could say.
I'm almost gonna miss it now. It's gonna be sad. Next year, you'll bring it back. All right. Well, thank you everybody for joining us for this episode of Distory. We really loved sharing these unique holiday stories with you this year as we finish out 2023 and head into 2024. Kirk, do you have any final thoughts?
Babies love 7-Up. And candy canes were always meant to be with hooks.
And white.
Yeah.
If you take nothing else away, you can take that.
That's all you got.
That's all you need for 2023. All right. Thank you, everybody, for being with us. We really, really appreciate you guys being with us on this Distory journey. This has been so much fun. This whole year, celebrating this Disney history and going through all these details with you guys. It really has been a joy. I think I can speak on behalf of both of us, but you might have something to say about that too. But it's just been wonderful to be with you guys and to get to dig into these details of the parks and also highlight all these wonderful Imagineers and creators and storytellers that have created this whole ecosystem of Disney stuff that we love so much. So thank you for being along for the journey, and look forward to what we have in store for next year.
Oh my gosh. Next year, 2024.
All right. See you next time for Distory. Bye, everybody.
Bye, guys.
See ya.